Why would you probably play Witch Hunter as primary? Don't like the skills? Pretty much. I feel like I'm not going to be able to achieve high NG levels with a skill-based Witch Hunter. Reason being is, if I think about his skills one by one, is right-click the Fiery Hound skill. It requires like enemies to stand in like a certain position as it bounces, and they need to be basically at the end of the position to take the most damage. So that skill is dependent on you not moving and the enemy's not moving much. I can kind of show it off. Actually, I'll just show it. I'll show why I don't think it'll be very good, or I think it'll be not worth the effort. I guess that's what I should say. So Witch Hunter. Why I would play Witch Hunter as primary. So that's a little too high. Actually, let's just leave it. We just need to show like a short demonstration, right? Oh shit. We'll change that when we go back to the pyramid. Maybe the 33% attack speed drink could be really good. Yeah, it could be. So basically, this is your... Yeah, that's one of your damaging skills. It kind of feels like the lightning bolt from the Warlock, damage-wise. But it has a cooldown. It has a pretty significant cooldown, actually. You can't really spam it. You can maybe have 2 out at one time, and that's about it. Maybe with some more skill speed, you could do it. But usually what's happening is I'm holding down left click and I'm running, and I actually run faster than these bounces. So unless I'm at a point where it's like super hard and I'm like kiting and I'm like kiting this, but if I'm kiting, the enemies are probably here, and after the first couple bounces, me moving back, the enemies moving forward, and this moving in the other direction, it's gonna like pass right over it unless I'm completely timing it right. So next skill is the ward, right? You can have 10 of these, so precasting them is like really nice, but you can precast on any build. It doesn't have to be a skill build to precast these things. Precasting, like, they're kind of small, right? So if there's a bunch of enemies in here and I'm trying to pull the room, I can like precast some, which is kind of slow and clunky, and then I can like bring them around here, and maybe I can shoot some of these into the room. But it's kind of all like, I have to move the monsters perfectly into my damage. So I have 2 things that are probably going to miss a lot of the time. And then the last thing is this pyre. So I can put the pyre in like another choke point. I have a lot of like choke point abilities. Or he can walk through, he's going to get hit by the ward. I can put a pyre right here, they're going to get hit by it. But if you're in like an open area, pyre, and you're like running, they're just going to, like, one enemy's going to run through it and you're going to keep going. And if you're doing enough damage, you're just going to be running and gunning. So all these things that like drop on the ground behind you and you walk away from them, like the wards and the pyre, they're not really going to do anything. Because this kind of acts like the Orb of Winter for the Sorcerer. But the Sorcerer, you just like cast it, it goes in front of you, and you go in and you start doing Ice Novas as well. But you can't really do that kind of gameplay with this. So I feel like it's better for me to just solely rely on the darts. Also, the darts are really good. I mean, they do 20 base damage. There's 4 bolts, so 80 damage there. But it also ignores 30% armor. And the bolts pierce enemies, but lose 50% damage as they get pierced. So it's like amazing shotgun potential, because if I'm just doing like a 1-to-1, I'm ignoring 30% armor, and I'm dealing 80 damage. It'd be really boring if enemies wouldn't change focus. Oh, wait, let me see. I think my issue is similar. The skills don't offer a lot of control, could be very effective or easily be a waste of mana. The pyre doesn't actually need to be at choke points, enemies focus on it for some reason. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that it's like a nice thing that enemies focus on. I kind of equate that to like the gladiator little minions that like confuse the enemies. Yeah, I put it in the same ballpark where you don't really try to scale that ability, you just kind of cast it and you just do whatever else you want it to do. So I would kind of like cast pyre, and maybe some enemies will attack it, and I'll be, you know, over here shooting them while they're distracted by the fire, you know, and maybe I can drop some wards, so, you know, if they come over here. Also, the rest of his kit kind of works as like a primary. So I get all the damage from the repeater, It also pierces and hits stuff behind. It's my only ranged ability. So if I'm in the thick of it trying to put down wards and pyres, I have no defensive abilities. I have no evasion, I have no block like some of the other characters. So I'm just going to get kind of destroyed. I don't have life leech like the warlock. So I'm kind of ignoring these abilities pretty much. They're high mana cost. I mean, I'm only NG3 on this character. So like the high mana cost will be less of an issue when I have thousands of mana. But it just hasn't felt worth it by like the size of the ward and the pyre. I would rather just use the repeater, use the ward against bosses for the 100% increase more damage, put a pyre down against bosses so they get distracted by it and it does a little bit of magic damage. I also benefit from the Fanatic Zeal. As long as I have mana, if I'm casting a ward every now and then or I'm casting a pyre, I'm getting this crit chance. So here it says Fanatic Zeal when casting a skill, so only skills, not your primary repeater that we're focusing the build on, grants a critical hit chance for all attacks and skills. Increases by 2.5% for each stack, maximum 8 stacks. So what do you get? You get 20% chance to crit as long as I've cast a skill every now and then. So I can just stagger the skill. See, I have 8 stacks. I can just stagger a skill one every 8 seconds, and I have all this extra crit just because of that. It's amazing. So I get more primary crit for no reason. This is a passive skill, so if I get hit, the crows do whatever. I don't really care what the crows do. This could be any passive really. And then I throw a torch when I'm casting these other skills, which I'll cast these skills just to keep up the Fanatic Zeal. I'll get some free damage for this, and it applies burning, so maybe I'll use the burning statue and it'll apply bleeding, and as I'm running away the enemies will be burning and they'll be bleeding and they'll be dying because they're moving. I don't know, that's like the idea. Is the skills seem like a lot of work to make work well, whereas I can just hold down left click and like kind of kite around and use my skills as kind of like a support. That's the idea. I don't know. I wouldn't say that's like the end-all be-all way to play him, but I think that's how he's going to be played in high NG. Also, there's like some other benefits, right? Like Gladiator already exists, so I have this 560% crit damage already, and this will take a while to catch up. So that's one thing. I also already have Callus statue leveled up, and I have the Paladin at 300 armor, which is 300 attack power, and I have another 115 attack power, so I have more damage just by going primary over here with the crit bonus. Just seems faster in general, it's safer because it's ranged. You don't have any abilities. Like, I would say, if we look at the classes, they all have some kind of defense. All the melee people have some kind of defensive, but the Witch Hunter stuff are like half melee, half range, which kind of falls in the category of the Warlock. The Warlock has a melee skill though, so he's kind of forced to go Spellcaster. You can do primary and try to do like a Soul Cleaver Leech strategy, which kind of works. But this guy doesn't really have that option. Like, he can get close, but he can't really survive. He doesn't have the leech. So I think it's better for him to stay at range and just use the ward to do 100% more damage. Use the ward to keep up the 20% crit chance on your skills. Use the pyre as like a target dummy. And yeah. Also, the Incinerated Miles will work with the Ravens. So every tick of Incinerated Miles will keep like summoning the Ravens to do whatever they do. And I think that's fine.